welcome to the second episode of the By Steve Rowe podcast, a photography podcast that looks at social media and travel. And today we're going to be looking at 5 photos that I took from the weekend, and then we're also going to be looking at the social media issue of this week, which is it worth to boost posts and photos on Instagram and Facebook? So first of all, let's have a look at these photos from the weekend. They were shot in Gangnam, which is in Seoul. It is the one you're thinking of, Gangnam Style, 3 billion views on YouTube. And I said this on my Instagram post, I've actually never shot in Gangnam. So it was quite a surprise to me that it actually went so well. And the reason is because I think I've just never tried it before because it's so busy. It's one of the most popular areas in all of Seoul. You know, I don't know if it was popular before the Psy era. I wasn't in South Korea before Psy, but it's awesome for shopping, and it's got lots of bars, it's got lots of restaurants, and not only that, it's also the home to a lot of headquarters. So last night I saw a big skyscraper with the Starbucks logo on it, so I'm assuming that they've also got a huge headquarters there. So it is very busy. You've got tourists and you've got a ton of business workers. So that's why I think I always thought that it wasn't a good place to take photos, because for me I need maybe just like a solitary figure for my photo, and I prefer that because the solitary figure, it kind of brings more of a story and more of a focus into the photo. And when you've got a photo with lots of people, you're looking at a scene more rather than a story. And you know, with my photos, I never want to try and create a story for the viewer. I want the viewer to try and create that for themselves. And you know, that does happen when people see my photos. They'll write comments and messages on how it made them feel, or the story that they saw in that photo. So, and I think you can achieve that more likely with a solitary figure or with as few people as possible. I didn't really get many photos like that from this weekend. However, the shoot itself, it was very successful. I almost didn't shoot this weekend. I almost ran out of time. Saturday was too busy. I ended up had every intention to shoot, but I went out for drinks and a meal with some friends before, and that was just intended to be like an hour or 2 hours, but you know how it gets. As soon as I saw my clock 4 hours later, I was like, this means I've run out of time. And so I did try and go shoot out. I tried to go out in Cheongdam, which is it's an area above Gangnam. It's super rich. There's a lot of money there, and my intention to go there was to actually shoot outrun photos. And if you remember last week, outrun is the style of photography which is, it has like cyberpunk aesthetics, vaporwave aesthetics. However, the focus is more on cars. So there are plenty of nice cars in Cheongdam. However, there aren't any neons. It's just too rich an area. You know, contrary to belief, not every South Korean street has neons. There are lots of high-end fashion stores there, lots of nice cars, but just nothing was sparking the imagination or the inspiration. So I called it a night. And then Sunday, a spontaneous trip to Lotte World, which is the theme park here in Seoul, well worth a visit if you're in the area. And even after that, I was like, I was just too tired to go out and shoot. Gangnam was on the way home though, so I didn't really have an excuse. I pulled myself together, managed to go and take quite a lot of photos around Gangnam, because I kind of forgot about how tired I was as soon as I realized how much of a gold mine Gangnam is. And actually, it was relatively quiet compared to what it usually can be. So I think for sure I'm gonna hit this this whole area up when it's been raining. So Gangnam is it's kind of split into 2 halves from this one big long street. The main street of Gangnam, it's got all the shops on it, and then either side of that street you've got all the bars and restaurants and all the neons. There aren't many alleys in Gangnam, and if you follow my photography you'll know that I do try to get them narrow alleys with all the stores, with all the restaurants and the bars down them. There aren't any areas like that, but there are bigger streets filled with neon, and I don't know, I think I did quite well. I think I got 10 Instagram worthy uploads from the shoot, so that's a very successful shoot. The one that I uploaded today, or yesterday I guess, because this podcast comes out tomorrow, that shot I had to we went to a cafe and there was a prime table by the window, but it was taken up, and I like staked out the position. I was like ready to jump in as soon as the people left it. They finally did, and I managed to pull off the shoot. I was waiting for a car to go through, and I wanted to use my fractal lenses, and I kind of made it look like the car was going into like some kind of portal into the unknown. But it actually took a bit of Photoshop editing as well, and which I didn't really want to go into on the podcast because that's a whole different thing. And I will talk about how I use Photoshop from time to time. However, I'm no pro at it, and actually I do need a lot more practice, so I can't be seeing, you know, all the mistakes that I make on Photoshop. I can't be doing that on a podcast, not yet. But yeah, so the shoot in general went very well. 5 photos here. I really like this photo that I'm editing right now because this is actually quite typical of a lot of restaurants and bars in Gangnam, that they use in neon and LEDs and things like that, but it's like a lot of thought and effort has gone into the overall design. And so there's this one with the cactus and it's a Mexican restaurant, but there was also there's a bar further up the road that I'm not going to edit in this podcast, but it was like a really beautiful pink moon that was floating above the street. I got quite a good shot from that, but these are the 5 photos that I've chosen for this one. So yeah, overall a good shoot. I'm going to do a little weather report. I'm going to do a weather report on this podcast, basically because if you follow my photography, you know that as soon as it rains, I go outside and I take some photos. And this week we have 70% of precipitation on Wednesday evening. So as soon as I finish work on Wednesday, I'm going to be hitting up an area that I just discovered in my neighborhood. I discovered it on the taxi ride home from Saturday night. Basically, it seems to be 2 streets that are just packed with neon and barely any people. I'm going to see what it looks like on Wednesday night. Going to go shoot down there. And then this weekend, lucky for me, 3-day weekend. Monday is Children's Day, and Children's Day is basically a day where children don't have to go to school and they don't have to go to academies. If you're wondering what academies are, just a little quick insight into a Korean student's life. They have to go to school. They finish, I think they finish like quite early compared to like what I used to finish to, like 1 or 2. But after that, they then go to academy. That could be maths, science, or English academy. I teach it in an English academy. And these kids can end up going to academies until like 10 p.m. at night. That was what I did at my old academy. My last class finished at 10 p.m. And these like 14-year-old kids go into school till 10 p.m. I felt so sorry for them. But, you know, they can actually speak English to a crazy high level. And I learned French at school, and I can only remember like bibliothèque for library. Au revoir, bonjour. That's about it. That's all or Spanish. ¿Dónde está la biblioteca? That's the problem, actually. You will learn like the most useless phrases. I think that's what we need to change. Anyway, that's going way off topic. Basically, they get Children's Day. They don't have to go to school. They don't have to go to academy, which means I don't have to go to work because I've got no kids to teach. So perfect for me. 3-day weekend. I'm going to be hopefully shooting every night. I've got plans to go into Seoul for sure, maybe around the Hapjeong area. Hapjeong is, I think that's the next upcoming area in Seoul. It's right next to Hongdae. Hongdae is very famous for its bars and all of that, but I think it's been like gentrified maybe lately. There was talks of some areas being demolished to build like nice apartment buildings and etc. And now Hapjeong, people are spilling out into that. I noticed there's a lot of nice like boutique stores cropping up. The creative scene has moved there. So wherever the creative scene moves is then what becomes, you know, the cool area for a bit, and then the big businesses come in. You know how it goes. So yeah, Hapjeong, I'm gonna give that a go. So that's this weekend. There's no rain, unfortunately, but I do get rain on Wednesday. So, and this shot right here I was quite happy with. It's like a Porsche in front of the GS store. But anyway, let's move on to the social media issue, which is it worth your money to boost photos on Instagram and to boost for posts on Facebook? Now, I did a little experiment last week. I had some credit left over from when I was boosting on Facebook, and that spills over, of course, into Instagram. Same company, so they were giving me credit for either Facebook or they'd given me some credit for Instagram. Now I think it was like £4, £5, and so I split that up into 2 posts. One post I did £1 on, I know, huge budget. I did £1 for that one. Second one I did just £2. Now for the first one, when you go to create your post on Facebook or Instagram, you are given the option to create your own target audience. You can go by city, you can go by pages that they like, you can go by the age, you can go by gender, you can really go in and like set up a very specific target audience, which I chose to do for the first one. I think I generally set it to location being Seoul and location being London, just to see how it goes. And these are the results from £1. 1,197 people saw my photo, but I only got 5 profile clicks. So what does that show you? It shows you that it's just not worth your money. 1,197 people can see your photo, but only 5 people are going to take their time to actually learn more about it from that one. Why is that? See, the thing is with advertisement, this isn't new to just social media. This has been going on for ages. When you watch TV and the ads come on, what do? You don't sit there and watch them, take notes. You change the channel, you go out the room, you go make a drink, whatever. But you kind of just don't pay attention to the ads, and that's just no different to the way it works on the internet. When you're scrolling on Instagram, you rarely register that you're seeing a sponsored post. Instagram is designed to try and take in as much content as possible, as quick as possible, and so when you come across an Instagram ad, it's just not that apparent that it's an ad. It's when you might accidentally give it a double click, if you're going through quite absent-mindedly, and when you do that, it does kind of change color and it says learn more. But I think by then the person has moved on to the next post. It's just not quick enough. I don't know whether Instagram realize that their ads aren't that apparent, or they do realize, because to them they're still getting money, and people just are just going to use the app and not complain that it's not being filled with sponsored ads. I did check on Instagram, every 5 posts you do get a sponsored ad. So I just don't think it's worth the money, and actually I do see it as a form of gambling, which, hear me out, so like every time you boost a post, there's no certainty that you're going to get great engagement. There's no certainty that you're going to get a ton of followers from each time you spend money on boosting. So you're gambling whether you're going to make that impact. And so people keep chasing, and I've been guilty of this before, and I did it with Facebook, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. But people keep chasing, and you're getting likes, but does it mean anything? You need to be trying to attract fans to your profile. You don't want to be trying to just get likes. It's not going to mean anything. You want to get those people to then like the next 10 photos you're going to upload in the future. You might get some followers, and actually that's one thing that would be useful when you're boosting, is to get that insight on the people that clicked your profile link. Did they then click follow? It doesn't give you that information. Now let's move on to post 2, which was the £2 post. I doubled my budget, big money we're talking here. Doubled my budget. This time I let Instagram choose my audience, and they chose a 90% male audience, and I checked my Instagram audience just from my followers. It is predominantly male, so they went all in on the male audience, and this time I got 767 people reached and 25 link clicks. Again, that's obviously a better ratio than the one that I did, but I'm not really getting any information on did those people actually go and hit follow. Also, I didn't really get that many likes, to be honest, on each photo. I'm getting more likes from my own Instagram following. my engagement is above 10%, and we're going to look in the future podcast about target engagements on both Facebook and Instagram. But again, just with Instagram, I just don't think it's worth boosting posts. Now, is it worth boosting posts on Facebook? Again, no. So in the summer, I was guilty of spending a bit too much money on boosting Facebook posts. And there was this one particular post which would be considered by many a successful campaign. It was from when I was traveling in Malaysia, and it was a picture that I took of a mosque. I then boosted that picture in Malaysia, and it got 12,000 likes. That's a huge number of likes, but did they mean anything? No, because then I did actually get so on Facebook, if someone likes a post and they don't like your page, you can invite them to like your page. And so I got hundreds of people then to come to like my page from Malaysia. And then after a while, I realized Malaysia's not my target audience. People I need my target audience needs to be able to speak English. The reason for that is because to build engagement, to build a better fan base almost, is to actually have engagement by having conversations, by doing daily blogs. All of that contributes towards getting your name out there and building up your profile. And so you weren't going to get that with an audience that can't speak English. And so that was a big waste of money. It was successful, but it just wasn't successful for me and what I was trying to achieve. So honestly, I don't think you should be wasting your money on Instagram or on Facebook. If you are going to do it, just try not to do it too much, Just try to, every now and then, maybe give a post a little boost. Make sure it's a great campaign. Make sure it's a photo that really reflects your style. Make sure it's a photo that is very eye-catching to make people stop whilst they're scrolling down Instagram. And that's your biggest challenge, is to get people to stop scrolling. You know it. I do it. You do it. Instagram is one of the most passive forms of social media, maybe Twitter as well. It's just scrolling. It's not like Facebook where people will stop to view videos. Instagram is just all about photos. And so to get someone to stop, that's your biggest challenge. And I think you're better off doing that by writing more engaging, by picture descriptions, writing, a lot more for your content. So there you go. Next week, I think I'm going to talk about Reddit, because I'm getting a lot of questions about how to use Reddit. It's a beast to tackle. It takes a lot of work, but it is one, if not the best forms of social media to get people over to your content. But you need patience, okay? That's going to be next week. And obviously I'm going to have a lot of photos to edit if I'm out every night. We'll try and see if I can do that. So yeah, just go through the photos now. These 5 photos, I'm pretty happy with them. I still got a lot of the photos to look through. And again, this one actually quite like, because that sign just here that says Hwangum. Hwangum, I'm reliably told, is the Korean word for gold. So let's see if that's true. But I quite like it because there's a lot of gold themes and gold tones in this photo. So anyway, to show your support for the podcast, there are a number of ways you can do it. First of all, you can hit subscribe so we can get this YouTube channel growing. The second way is if you want to support by going to my website, www.bysteverowe.com, link in the description. You can head to the store, and from there you can also pick up some Lightroom presets, or you can go ahead and buy some posters or some stickers or a notebook with my photos on it. There's tons of things that you can buy through the Redbubble site. The link is in the store. So head over to there if you want to show your support. But for now, bye-bye, and I'll see you next week. Cheers.